What's up, everyone, and welcome in to your Celtics source on this Saturday evening as the Boston Celtics fall to the Minnesota Timberwolves 119-115. They dropped to 10-9 on the season, and this game was an unfortunate game. You're playing a better opponent. You're supposed to lose, but I thought after that game against the Pistons on Wednesday night, the Celtics would actually be, able to contend in this game. And they did so in the first half. They actually had a 10-point lead in the first half. Jaylen Brown was fantastic in the first half. We'll talk about his performance in the first half in just a second. But then, down the stretch in this game, they fall apart. Jaylen Brown was not great in the second half. The entire offense was pretty poor in the second half. Lots of missed shots, lots of iso ball, and that's what really cost them in this game. Anthony Edwards made a just unbelievable shot to ice the game with, 20 seconds left in the game. But that being said, he is a superstar for that reason. He's going to make those shots, and quite frankly, this game shouldn't have gotten back down to a crunch time game after the Celtics had that 10-point lead. It was, it's not like a 10-point lead is anything in the NBA right now. Like, anyone can come back from a 10-point lead. But I really thought that the Wolves got back into this game because of the Celtics' poor performance in the first half. But we will start with the first half because I thought this game was just a brilliant first half game from Jaylen Brown. Right, 19 points in the first quarter alone for Jaylen Brown. Finished the half of, 27, something like that. Just a great all-around game from Jaylen Brown in that first half. Right, spreading the floor. Not only was he scoring, but he was also making plays. He finishes the game with 7 assists, 6 rebounds. The Celtics still continue to struggle on the offensive boards for sure in this game. That makes sense. You're playing Naz Reid, Rudy Gobert, who are both, 7-foot tall centers who are always going to dominate this team, right? The Celtics are still 30th in the NBA in defensive rebounding. I think they're down in the 60s, high 60s for rebounding percentage, which is a huge problem, right? That's going to continue to be, earlier in the season, right, those first 3 games, the rebounding was the sole problem of their, failures. Right now, it's not the sole problem, but it is a problem that's going to continue to occur all season, right? We've said this before. There's nothing you can do about the rebounding. You just have to play through it and really just play harder and outshoot opponents to make up for that. Right? You're going to give up free points from offensive rebounds. And so, really what it comes down to is just, can you win a track meet? And in the end in this game, the Celtics went cold from 3. Derrick, White, Payton Pritchard especially, and that really cost them the game. But as for Jaylen Brown's taken it upon himself to be the 1A player on this team, right? The first couple of games, he was sort of spreading the ball around, trying to get his teammates around. But he's realized now that he has no choice but to just score the basketball. And he's doing that, right? In every game, he's averaging like 30 points right now. Now, in this game, it took him, he finished the game with 41 points, but it took him 17 of 32, so 32 shots to get there, right? So a pretty poor efficient night. Whereas Anthony Edwards, on the other hand, he had 39 points, so just, 2 less, but he only took 24 shots, making 12 of 24. Now, another reason for that is he got to the free throw line 10 times by himself, right? That continues to be a problem for the Celtics, the free throw margin, right? It's not even that the Celtics are it's not even that the Celtics are fouling opponents. It's just that the Celtics themselves just do a terrible job of drawing fouls. Now, Jaylen Brown gets a bad whistle, and he got some, I guess, he continued to get a pretty bad whistle in this game, and he always gets a bad whistle in games, it seems like. Anthony Edwards, on the other hand, is great at drawing fouls, right? And he's going to get the benefit of the doubt. But still, you can't be outscored from the glass by a margin of, what is it here? A margin of 15 free throws for the Celtics, making just 9 of them, and 20 free throws for the Wolves, right? So the 5, free throw attempts, it's not a huge deal. There are other games where they get, taken advantage on that aspect by a margin of 10, even 15 sometimes, right? But the Wolves did make 16, so that is 7 more free throws, right, than the Celtics made, right? And this game was a 4-point game when it was all said and done. So you reduce that, free throw margin, and you get a 1-score game, right? Maybe you don't have, to take these, poor shots at the end of the game to try and get a 3, because maybe you only need 1 point, and it changes the whole dynamic of the final couple of minutes. I'm not sure when the Wolves got out to that. Obviously, it is a crunch time game. The Wolves had got it up to 10 within the final 5, and then the Celtics, came back a little bit with a big 3 from Derrick White and a big 3 from Jaylen Brown. But that being said, a pretty poor crunch time performance. It's been a problem for the Celtics this season, but it really hasn't been as of late. So this was, a step back in the direction that we were not hoping to see, especially because they have a tough schedule coming up. And actually, we're going to do a podcast episode tomorrow afternoon around 12, so just before football starts. I know the Patriots don't play, but people that want to watch football, we're going to do it at 12. That way we don't interfere with the game. And we're just going to talk, a little bit more about this game, maybe slightly about the Pistons game, because that was actually, I think, their best game of the season, arguably their best win of the season. But we're going to talk about that, and then we're going to talk about their tough schedule coming up, because they play, not only do they play the Cavs tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, which we'll have a postgame show, of course, for that, but they also play the Lakers coming up, the Knicks, the Suns, the Hawks, Raptors, who are both, playing extremely well in the Eastern Conference right now. So just, one of these games where, you have the game in your hands, coming out of the half, you're playing well, and it sort of all just falls apart for you down the stretch, which, is something that, has been a reoccurring problem for this team, but I thought we had gotten out of it. And, part of the problem, actually a major part of the problem, is the shooting, 3-point shooting that comes back to hurt them in this game from, again, Derrick White and Payton Pritchard, right? 2 guys that have been struggling all season. They'll, have one game here and there where they, play fantastic, like that game, in Detroit, or the game against the Pistons, not in Detroit, but the game against the Pistons where, they come out of that slump, and then in this game they get right back at it, right? Derrick White, finishes the game 2 of 8 from 3, just 20%, right? That's just cannot happen if you're going to be playing, 39 minutes a night? I'll talk about what they did defensively in just a second, but then Payton Pritchard, 4 of 14, so even worse than Derrick White. I guess that is, 40%, I guess, but is it 40%? No, it's, what am I saying? It's 20%, less than 20%. But, yeah, so that, my point is, right, 2 guys that are playing, 30-plus minutes a night and absolute duds offensively. Now, Derrick White did pick up a couple assists, finishes the game with 5 assists, but the 1 rebound from him and the 2 turnovers and the poor shooting and, I wouldn't say sloppy defense. Well, actually, it wasn't really his fault at all, but combining that with the inability to shut down Anthony Edwards late in this game pretty much cost them the game. Speaking of that, right, the defensive side of the ball, Anthony Edwards is great when he's going to his left hand and scoring the ball that way. And the Celtics were trying extremely hard in that first half and succeeding to force him right, shifting their body to force him right where he has a much harder time scoring, making layups, contested shots like that. And then in that second half, Anthony Edwards was able to just do easy crossovers to get to his left and get downhill. Like, in that first half, I'm not sure why, what switched in that second half that Anthony Edwards was just able to do just a simple crossover and get to his left hand and score. I'm not sure what happened, but that's really what cost him the game because Anthony Edwards went nuclear in that third and fourth quarter. Not including that just ridiculous shot he had with 20 seconds left to ice the game. Right, a pretty great defensive possession from Derrick White actually on that play. It's a 3-point game. 3-point game or something like that. One score at least. And Anthony Edwards, loses the ball, dribbles around, is out on the left, corner of the 3-point arc, and just throws up a Hail Mary that, finds a way to go in. I'm not sure how he did that, but, I guess, we can wrap it up here. There's not much to talk about, and I'm actually going to do a video more in depth later tonight after I go back, watch the game, take some notes, all of that. This is sort of just my initial reaction. For those of you who don't know, we usually do, the postgame show is pretty short. We do a quick initial reaction, and then, later sometimes I go back and we do a more in-depth reaction to this game. But, I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Follow on social media. The Celtics do take on the Cleveland Cavaliers tomorrow night. Another tough game. You got to be able to split these games. I know they're back-to-backs, but you got to be able to stay 2 games above 500 right now. You can't fall back to 500. And it's going to be extremely hard because, Donovan Mitchell, very similar to Anthony Edwards, plays pretty much the same style, actually. And so it's going to be tough to guard him. And now he actually has less flaws than a guy like Anthony Edwards and is a much more consistent 3-point shooter. So I'm worried about that game, especially because they have another 2, big centers in Jared Allen and Evan Mobley who are going to destroy the Celtics on the glass. But thank you guys so much for watching. Follow on social media. And until next time, go Celtics.